Kathy Thomas founded the virtual assistant industry in Australia. Now, the internet allows people worldwide to return home to work and be more available for their families. Today, Kathy is an ideal role model for those who want to combine family and work at home. She's a firm believer that parents need to be present for the shaping of their children's lives and that a parent regularly at home assists with that process. Kathy has recently published Worth More Than Rubies, the value of a work-at-home mum. First of all, Kathy, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us about the book. What inspired you to write this book? And it's a brave thing to do.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I've been working from home now for 13 years and I've got 5 daughters and brought them up during that time. And the book actually started in a really funny way. I'd been learning how to use the blogging software and I wanted to explore WordPress so I could offer it as another service to my clients.
Yep.
And I already owned a couple of blogs, but I wasn't sure what other topic to pick up. And then someone had mentioned to me about the Proverbs 31 woman, which is from the Old Testament. And she's actually a businesswoman and a mother at home and caring for her family and everything. So I thought an ideal opportunity was to do a private study while exploring how this blogging software operated.
So what did you find with the study?
What did I find with the study? Well, some interesting things happened. I didn't realise Proverbs 31 woman actually started from verse 10, so I started from verse 1.
Right.
And very early on in the verses, there's actually mention about leadership and alcohol and how it restricts their judgment in looking after their people. And a journalist in the US actually found my blog in its very early stages.
Right.
There was a senator in Washington who had a drinking problem and he was actually pointing his finger at the senator. And when he Googled and found references about alcohol, he found my reference from Proverbs 31 and pointed people to it via his own journalist's blog. And I ended up with thousands of visitors and I was absolutely stunned, and by that stage I was starting to get into the Proverbs 31 woman.
Yep.
So what happened while I was writing that was that suddenly I got women writing to me either via email or posting comments on the blog asking advice, seeking help, or just wanting to get permission to be able to work from home and do what I was already doing. So the blog sort of went from there. And by the time I finished it, late 2006, I had well over 4,000 visitors a month and growing. And my business coach said to me, you need to do something with this. You should be doing something with it. So the idea for the book came up.
And a great name too, Worth More Than Rubies, the value of a work-at-home mum. You can't do without your mum. That's the old TV commercial from way back. But it's very true, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's hard to combine in this day and age. A working mum generally goes out to an office, is away from the family. You're saying,
right.
no, you don't have to do that.
That's exactly right. For me, back in 1993, it was a very difficult year. I was working in the corporate world with a government department, actually on the best practice program.
Right.
My girls were home. The eldest one had just started high school. And I've got 5 daughters. So what I wanted to do was make sure that there was no one home alone, but Melanie was no longer eligible for after-school care. So I decided to take the other 4 out of after-school care and have all 5 at home for that year. And 4 o'clock every night, I was ringing up to referee fights and issue instructions and make sure everybody was home, doing their homework. And by the time I got home at 6:30 at night, I was really frazzled.
Yeah.
I was, absolutely. And I said to my husband, there has to be a better way. And coincidentally that year, I won Secretary of the Year here in Victoria, and Microsoft sponsored it. And amongst the prize package was some software. And I said to my husband, if I had a computer at home, I could work at home. And that's what birthed the idea.
Wow. And you haven't looked back?
No.
How's you went from when you were working for a company to now?
Yes.
How's your whole attitude changed towards work and being a mum?
I think it's been a gradual process. I mean, when I first started working from home, I felt like I was on a long holiday and that at some stage I was going to go back to work, and then this realisation was that I was working at home. I had to teach myself new programs or find the money to pay somebody to teach me how to do things. I had to apply a lot of motivation and initiative and discipline. One of the challenges that people have when they're operating a home-based business is that they suffer from isolation and depression because they don't have constant contact, one-on-one contact with other people.
Not because of the bad TV.
No.
That depresses you anyway. The Young and the Resentful and those sort of terrible programs.
I don't even watch those.
Oh, horrible. I think they're gone anyway. Come back. So because of the isolation, you can get depressed. Is that what you're saying?
You can. People can. Not everybody's cut out to operate a home-based business.
It's actually, and it's harder. I mean, it's like going to a cafe, for example. Oh, I want to own a restaurant. You go into a restaurant, different from drinking and eating at a restaurant than running it. And the same thing, oh, I like to work at home. There's discipline problems, making sure you do your right hours and communicate with people around you and not go within yourself.
Exactly, that's exactly right. And you've got to become the PR person, you know, you've got to do your own marketing, you've got to be your own salesperson. There's a lot of learning there involved.
Virtual assistant industry, tell me, that's a fantastic, I mean, you mentioned blogging and stuff, so you're very much into the virtual world. Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, when I first started out, I was called a home-based secretary.
Yes.
And within about 18 months of establishing my business, I got to the point where I was so busy I needed to find other people to help me.
Right.
And this was pre-internet. So I was looking for ways of being able to find people who already had computers at home and you know, assist me in that way. And then the internet entered the scene, and that totally changed the focus of how I was going to operate my business. Suddenly I could connect with people via email, and they didn't have to be local to me anymore. They could be further afield. Around that same time, the term virtual assistant started to raise its head, probably around about 95, 96. So instead of being a home-based secretary, we were starting to use the term virtual assistant. So we're a personal assistant, but operating on a virtual basis. And I started to get lots of women emailing me saying, how can I do what you're doing? I want to do what you're doing. I don't want to be competition, but I need your advice and help. And I actually went and saw my accountant, and we discussed how we could handle it. And I ended up setting a membership-based network. And my initial members started off here in Australia, but today I've got members in 15 countries. So
15 countries?
Absolutely.
That is sensational. So what are the goals and the aims? I mean, what's the main aim of what you do and the goals? Where do you want to go to with it?
Well, with my virtual assistant network, I want to grow it massively larger than it is now. I want to be able to touch people's lives, families' lives, and help women come back home. We do have a small number of men in our group. Sometimes we've got husband and wife teams, or we've got a couple of individual men that are operating, but the majority are women. And a good percentage of them, I'd say at least 80%, are women who are mothers at home with children. And they can choose the hours that they work. They can choose to do 10 or 15 hours a week if they want, or 5 hours a week, or 40 hours a week. But, you know, the thing is that with this, they can operate on a virtual basis. They don't have to see their clients. In fact, most of my clients I never see on a
unless you have Skype.
Basis. Yes, you can.
Look, I'm on camera.
That's right, Skype. I don't use Skype much for my clients, but I have a daughter who's overseas, and we use it to connect with her all the time.
It's a challenge. I mean, one of our production guys here, who's very new to the industry, has discovered Skype. Timothy, he does some Skyping, but once he learns that you don't have to put 20 cents in the machine, but he's very new at it, so he's learning that. So it's a challenge for him. So if somebody wants to find out more about what you do, how do they do that?
Well, they can go to my website, which is www.asecretary.com.au.
Right.
That has a link to all of my other websites. In fact, it probably has a link to my book as well. And my book actually talks about the journey of the challenges that I went through in becoming a business mum at home, caring for my kids and all that type of thing.
Now, one more time, one more plug just for the website.
Yes, for asecretary.com.au.
Kathy Thomas, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.